Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to put on our sports historian hats to uncover one of international football's most fascinating statistical anomalies. We're going to contrast two dramatically different eras in Turkey's history, their kind of chaotic mid-century debut back in 1954 and their absolutely phenomenal golden run in 2002. So let's just dig right into the numbers that define a nation's sporting soul, shall we?
Here's a quick look at how we're breaking this down today. We'll start with the historian's overview, then step back into 1954 for those first footsteps. After that, we'll fast forward to their 2002 return in advance, break down that historic knockout run, and wrap up with the bronze and a record.
Okay, let's dive straight into it with our historian's overview. Decades between the pitch.
When you trace Turkey's qualification history, it reveals a pretty stark reality. Now, you might not know this, but they actually qualified for the 1950 World Cup, but ended up withdrawing. So their debut on the pitch didn't actually happen until 1954, where they exited in the group stage. And then there was nothing. Nothing at all until a triumphant, truly historic return in 2002, where they took third place. And with 2026 qualification already secured, these rare, fleeting appearances take on immense historical weight.
I want you to really think about this massive number. 48. That is a 48-year gap between their 1954 debut and their 2002 return. I mean, that's nearly half a century. Entire generations of very passionate fans lived and died without ever getting to see their nation play at a World Cup. This massive absence really sets the perfect stage for the ultimate underdog narrative.
Right, let's rewind the clock to 1954. The first footsteps, a tournament of heavy defeats and historic highs.
To really understand 1954, you kind of have to wrap your head around the format back then. Today, we're all super used to a standard group stage where goal difference settles any ties. Simple, right? But the 1954 Group 2 format was, well, it was highly unusual. Turkey finished tied on 2 points with West Germany, but instead of advancing or going home based on goal difference, this quirky format forced a brutal sudden-death playoff match between the two tied teams just days later.
Talk about whiplash, right? The match results perfectly capture the wild swings of Turkey's 1954 campaign. They open with a pretty tough 4-1 loss to West Germany, but then completely dismantled South Korea with a historic 7-0 victory. However, because of that weird tied points rule we just talked about, they were forced into a rematch with West Germany, which resulted in a really harsh 7-2 defeat. It was a tournament of just incredibly unpredictable swings.
If we spotlight Coach Sandro Pupo's roster from back then, you can clearly see where their strengths lay. You had Turgay Sharon wearing the captain's armband in goal, but the real impact, that came from a legendary offensive trio. We're talking Burhan Sargon and Suat Mamat with 3 goals each, and the iconic forward Lefter Küçükhandonyadis with 2. Pupo's tactical system leaned heavily on this individual attacking flair, but honestly, it completely lacked the defensive structure needed to survive against top-tier European teams.
So here is the million-dollar question. We have a team with a brief, super volatile history in 1954 that then just disappears from the tournament for 48 years. How on earth did a team absent for nearly half a century return to literally conquer the globe and take bronze?
Let's find out by moving into 2002, return in advance, and how they escaped Group C.
Under head coach Şenol Güneş, Turkey's path out of Group C was, well, it was a total nail-biter. Brazil ran away with 9 points, leaving Turkey and Costa Rica completely deadlocked at 4 points each. After a really tough opening loss to Brazil and a draw against Costa Rica, Turkey absolutely needed a decisive victory, and they found it with a critical 3-0 win over China. Thanks to the modern era's goal difference rule, Turkey's structured attack gave them a +2 margin, pushing them out of the group phase, which, if you remember, was a hurdle they couldn't clear back in '54.
The biggest shift under Coach Güneş? An incredible leap in physical and tactical discipline. Just look at the 2002 Iron 7. These 7 stalwarts appeared in every single match. Defender Fatih Akyel literally played every single minute of the tournament. While that 1954 team relied on individual sparks of brilliance, Güneş instituted this rigid, modern defensive structure, powered by relentless collective stamina. It was a complete game changer.
Which brings us to the historic knockout run, a true gauntlet of 1-0 margins. Unlike that quick exit back in '54, 2002 pushed the team into totally uncharted knockout territory. June 18th in Japan, they grind out a tense 1-0 win over the co-hosts. Just 4 days later, another grueling 1-0 win, this time over Senegal, and it required extra time. Then, a razor-thin 1-0 loss to Brazil in the semifinal. I mean, surviving 3 consecutive 1-0 matches on the world's biggest stage, that required a level of tactical discipline the nation had never seen before.
To really grasp the pure, unfiltered emotional intensity back home in Turkey, we have to talk about the Osaka quarterfinal on June 22nd. After 90 minutes of nerve-wracking, totally scoreless football, İlhan Mansız strikes in the 94th minute. And because of the golden goal rule that existed back then, the match ended instantly. Boom. Over. That single strike ignited absolute euphoria. Millions of fans erupted in immense national pride. A country that waited 50 years just to be there was suddenly in the Final Four.
And that sets the stage for our final chapter, bronze and a record, rewriting history in Daegu.
Now, I want you to look closely at this incredibly small decimal, 10.89. Does anyone out there know what this tiny fraction of a second actually represents in the grand scope of World Cup history?
It represents a completely shattered world record. Right from the opening whistle of the bronze medal match, Hakan Şükür pressed the defense, stole the ball, and scored just 10.89 seconds in. He obliterated a 40-year-old record, giving Turkey the fastest goal in FIFA World Cup finals history. It totally set the tone for a thrilling 3-2 victory, securing the bronze medal and cementing this unbreakable legacy of national pride.
You know, as a sports historian, my absolute favorite thing here is how the data perfectly bridges these two eras. Check out the all-time World Cup top goal scorers for Turkey. You've got İlhan Mansız with 3 goals from that modern 2002 era, standing right shoulder to shoulder with Burhan Sargun and Suat Mahmut, who each scored 3 goals back in the 1954 debut. 2 vastly different tactical eras, separated by 48 long years, yet permanently tied together in the record books.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty exciting thought. We've traced this incredible tactical evolution from Coach Pupo's high-scoring but vulnerable 1954 side all the way to Coach Günesh's incredibly disciplined bronze medal-winning Iron 7 of 2002. With qualification for the 2026 World Cup already secured, what new records is the next generation going to rewrite? Well, only time and the pitch will tell. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep learning.